quick rant. It's kind of funny. I seem to be doing more hangouts now that I stopped doing my weekly one, but it's the hypocrisy topic again. And the other day there was a hangout where, once again, a popular YouTube personality that seems to be practically worshipped by a lot of people gets on a panel to talk about science, but has to begin with what I would borrow a term from Orwell's 1984, the 2 minutes hate, where people, if you're familiar with the book, that people would let out their hatred of the imaginary enemy by, just venting their spleens on them for a couple of minutes, and then they're good for the rest of the day. And this seems to be a need of popular YouTube personalities these days, especially in conspiracy and especially in flat Earth. And this person started off, as many have before, with a bashing of the Bible and Christians and Christianity. First of all, saying that he considered himself an expert on the Bible beyond any Christian, which, as we all know, would be considered extremely arrogant and conceited and egotistical if any Christian said any similar statement. But this person can say it and everybody applauds. And then this person went on to say that whoever interpreted the Bible differently than he did was a fool. So I'm a fool, according to him, in spite of all the work I've done, in spite of the fact that I've been studying the Bible intently since at least my teens, and I'm now pushing 60. This is insulting beyond words. And when a few of us in the chat politely defended ourselves from this onslaught, we were called judgmental. And I just don't know what to say about that level of hypocrisy, because how can it not be judgmental when someone gets on a panel and declares everyone who disagrees with him a fool, and that he himself is an expert beyond anybody for whose religious beliefs, whose faith, this is their holy book? How can it be that anyone outside of that faith can dictate to them how they should interpret it? That is so arrogant, it's beyond words. And yet this person and people like him are routinely applauded, lauded, and followed like a Pied Piper. And people make excuses for their behavior. They say, well, this reason, that reason, the other reason, this person is allowed to talk like that, but you're not. And that's why I entitled this little rant hangout, Except for You. The Flat Earth community especially talks about unity and putting our differences aside and working together, except for you. You being the Christians, especially the ones, because Christian is a loosely held term these days. What they mean by the bad Christians, another reason for my name change from Knowledge Scavenger, is that it just seems like the only acceptable Christian is a weak, spineless one. That if you take the Bible as any other literature would be taken, which is to say you consider the many layers of context, then there's something wrong with you. You're a fool, you're an idiot, you're anti-science. And I had people in the chat who know me, who have apparently never bothered to visit my channel, who decided that I didn't know, A, what science was in the Bible, and B, that somehow I don't understand what the church is and isn't, and that they had felt the need they should lecture me on the fact that the church isn't a building. I have a whole playlist of my own videos on what the church isn't and what it is. I did a series all summer long on the church, where 2 or 3 gather. And for people to say those things to me in the chat is, I don't know how to describe it. And it's to the point where I don't feel I can go anywhere but my own channel and speak freely. Because everywhere I go, and it's just me, then it's every decent Christian is going to be treated this way, with a double standard, with hypocrisy. And they call us the hypocrites. They call us judgmental. And so I'm not going to take it anymore. Now, the people of the channel who were hosting this person have been very kind to me, gave me a platform the week before, which is doubly ironic since the people in the chat, at least if they haven't gone to my channel, to have been going to that channel and know that I do science. And then to say those things they said to me in the chat is just incomprehensible. So up on the screen, I have a page in one of my blogs. I have several. Surprise, surprise. And this one's called What in the World? Originally, it was going to be my alternative to social network, but it turned into more Bible studies. And I thought, well, I'll just mothball this one, leave it up like I did my main. You can see the URL up there is WITW, What in the World? I have just www is my main archive site. And anyway, what I did in my last thing on this site is to put up a Bible Answers introduction because it brings up a lot of these points. And this phrase I heard a long time ago in church. I don't know who said it, but it was just, ordinary people, not a pastor or something. And they said, those who know all the answers haven't heard all the questions. Challenge every claim, but also every counterclaim. Don't end the trial too soon. That's the part I added. The first sentence is what I heard. And this is something everybody needs to remember, because people who are arrogant enough to think they have all the answers haven't heard all the questions. And I'm just going to read through this because I put this all in one document so it's easy to share, and there's some links at the bottom of it. If we can rely on ancient documents to disprove the Bible, then we can also rely on ancient documents to prove the Bible. You can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want to use ancient documents that so-called or presumed to be earlier than the Bible, that the Bible must have borrowed from, then you can't dismiss the Bible because it's old. Okay? Be skeptical of the skeptics. Never blindly swallow what anyone says, because those people, those skeptics who hold the Bible to impossible standards and Christians to impossible standards, never allow themselves or their documents to be held to those same standards anywhere near them. And I have another video elsewhere on my channel called Atheists on the Witness Stand. They won't stay there. They want to be the prosecutor every time. And if you try to make them defend their claims, they squirm and try to change the focus and put you on the witness stand so they can be the prosecutor. They're very slippery eels. Just a collection of some sayings. We already did that one. Rest easy, Neo. The answers are coming is from The Matrix. All truth passes through 3 stages. First is ridicule. Second is violently opposed. Third is accepted as being self-evident. Arthur Schopenhauer. And here's 3 points to consider. Conspiracy theory is ridiculed and opposed by mainstream institutions. Flat Earth is ridiculed and opposed by most conspiracy theorists. The Bible is ridiculed and opposed by many flat earthers. We see a pattern here. Flat Earth is singled out for exclusion among conspiracy theorists, and Christianity, the Bible as literal, historical, grammatical, is being ridiculed and opposed by flat earthers. So what does that tell you? If flat Earth is true because it's excluded, then so is Christianity and the Bible. So, and let me go on here. An idea that is not dangerous is unworthy of being called an idea at all, Oscar Wilde. And that is what most people consider the view I hold, and a lot of others of us hold about the Bible. World War II bomber pilot saying, if you're not catching flat, you're not over the target. That's exactly what we catch everywhere we go. Mark Twain is alleged to have said it's easier to fool people than to convince them they have been fooled. This is especially true of flat earthers who consider themselves awake and can't fathom the idea that they haven't learned all the lies. To answer before listening, that is folly and shame. In lawsuit, the first to speak seems right until someone comes forward and cross-examines, as from the Bible, Proverbs 18, 13, and 17. And this is what happens a lot of times with people who allegedly leave Christianity. They grew up in a Christian home, and then they go off to college and hear atheism and just jump ship without any questions at all, hardly. And they don't allow cross-examination. They don't go back and forth. They just quickly abandon beliefs that they grew up with because those beliefs were never deeply held. And that's why I would consider them never had to really have been Christians. But that's a different story about eternal security. I'm not going to get into that right now. At any rate, just some more stuff from this page. When you hear people discussing religion, especially negatively, it becomes clear it's usually not all religion that's meant, but specifically Christianity and the Bible. No other book has been so relentlessly examined and critiqued. No other religion has been so targeted for so long by so many. No other people are subjected to such a degree and duration of inquisition and extraordinary evidence requirements. It seems that just about any spiritual viewpoint, or as I call it, ABC, anything but Christianity, or story is acceptable as long as it isn't the Bible and or Christianity. And it seems that no name but Jesus seems to trigger strong negative reactions. You could say you worship Thor or Krishna and nobody throws a fit, but if you say Jesus is Lord, the eye rolling begins. Christians are routinely condemned for claiming to have the truth, yet our critics also claim to have the truth. We're criticized for thinking we're right and everyone else is wrong, when our critics also believe they're right and everyone else is wrong. They tend to respect people of other religions for living according to their convictions, yet despise Christians for doing the same. Faith is presumed to be the enemy of knowledge, when in reality it grows from knowledge. Those who condemn faith believe many things they cannot prove and thus do not know. And it's just ironic, if I can remember the situation not long ago, just within the last few days, where people claim that they know certain things about the cosmos or the earth realm, and they don't want to just believe. But if you ask them about something, say, for example, the nation of Israel and its history, or the Palestinians, they say, this is what I believe. I believe this in my heart. I go by my gut instinct. So the same people often will say both of those things at the same time, and they're self-contradictory. They're mutually exclusive. You can't say that you must know and then say, no, I don't go by evidence. I go by my gut. I cannot reconcile those two things because it's impossible, but I don't know how it's cognitive dissonance. They just walk through life wanting to impossibly incompatible things. Just like they want God to micromanage the world so nothing bad happens, but they want God to stay out of their lives and let them do whatever they want. At any rate, let me go on here. Those who seem most obsessed with destroying the Bible and only the Bible claim to be objectively examining the facts of history, but on further examination, in most if not all such cases, many key facts have been omitted, misunderstood, or cherry-picked. For example, some who claim that the Gospels borrowed from earlier religions have taken additions that post-date the time of Christ and inserted them before his time. This is true in the links I have at some of the links below. There are links in those links that are to debunking of the claims of Zeitgeist. And Zeitgeist is a kind of a summary of all the ridiculous claims that the Bible borrowed from earlier religious stories, such as 12 disciples and rising from the dead. Let me go on back. I was up here. No one stops to question anti-Bible or anti-Christian claims. These are swallowed blindly and never subjected to cross-examination. Skepticism is abandoned when it comes time to question the critics. And so the narrative, the presumed consensus, is that the Bible and Christianity have no answers, no evidence, and no basis for acceptance. It is my hope and prayer that you will find materials at the sources listed below to at least show that there really are answers, there is evidence, and we have a basis for our faith, so it deserves the same tolerance as any other faith. Be skeptical of the skeptics. And that's the thing I was hearing on that hangout yesterday. Let's all be loving and tolerant and all get along, but except for you Christians, you fools who disagree with our gurus that the Bible isn't just a code book. It isn't borrowed from other religions, and it isn't written by the Jesuits, and it isn't written by Josephus or the Romans. It is not written by the powers that be. It is written by the one true God, and people hate that. And so they discriminate against it and then talk about unity when they have just gotten done tearing apart the community, excluding a large part of it, and then saying, why can't we all get along? And why don't you just forget that, move on, settle down? I've been told that so many times, to just shut up and sit down and be meek and mild, or otherwise I'm a bad Christian. And this is not just happening to me. So there's links at the bottom here. If you just go to this one, maybe I should, like I said, it's just whatintheworld.feather.net. Let me put that in the chat real quick. And you could just click on that and read through what I just read. And this at the bottom here, this on every webpage is of my site here. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. And Jesus said that. It's an exclusive, narrow claim to truth. And people who say, no, that is a code, it means something else, or it isn't original, are being hypocrites, because they won't put that kind of a spin on anything else that they want to be true on its face. So, and I have other articles here, resources, some basics on various things, but this is all I really wanted to say, because I people want me to just get along with these people who insult me and my faith and my friends and my God, the Creator. They insult all of us. They decide that they are the experts on the book they don't even believe in. It's our book. The Bible is a Christian book. Yes, the Old Testament, the Torah, the Tanakh is Hebrew, but Christians accept also the New Testament. We call that the Old Testament. And so the Bible as a whole is a Christian book, and nobody outside of Christianity can tell us how to interpret it. Anyone who believes otherwise is arrogant and judgmental. And I don't care who they are, and I won't be on a panel with someone who does these things, especially with people who have done hit pieces on me. Not saying this particular person I had in mind has done that, but others have. Others who are, take anything that they disagree with as me lying, and so they make a hit piece and they slander me, and they've done that to a lot of us. We're not taking it anymore. I'm not. And so I won't be on a panel with people who allow this to go on their panels. I'm routinely smeared with what other people do when I'm on a panel or hosting a panel and somebody says something that I couldn't anticipate or anything. And if I don't immediately jump down that person's throat in public, then I am condemned along with them as condoning it. And this has happened over and over. I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time. I get smeared with what somebody else did or somebody else said. And if that's going to be used against me, then I'm going to use it against others. And a panel that sits there quietly while a large portion of the flat earth or conspiracy community is ostracized and torn away and marginalized and dismissed and called fools, how can I associate with those people? They allowed it to happen. They never asked for an apology, and they never reprimanded the person who said it. And if I'm held guilty by those standards, and I'm holding other people guilty by those standards, and there's just no words for this kind of prejudice. So, yeah, just briefly looking at the chat here, I'm always amazed when anybody shows up, but the fact is, the person who did this was never, he was praised and practically worshipped in the chat by everybody. And no one held him to account. And I didn't listen beyond that. I popped in once or twice to give him a link or something, and then I left, because why should I give my time and attention and effort to people who are that arrogant, that judgmental, and that hypocritical and divisive? He was all of those things, and everybody approved of it. Everybody there but the Christians. So, I don't know. I'm just not putting up with it. I'm not associating with people who do. And it's not a matter of, people, how harsh do I have to be to get people to realize this hypocrisy? It's just unbelievable. And so, yeah, I'm just saying that it is discouraging, but at the same time, Christians, in spite of what other people try to tell us the Bible means, are not to present themselves as punching bags for other people and just sit meekly while Jesus' name is dragged through the mud. That would be treason against our Savior and the name we bear as Christians. And people try to tell us what Christian means. The Bible tells us what Christian means. And the word Christian is in the Bible. There are ignorant people who say it's not. But I don't care what useful things people like that have to say. I would rather go without knowing those things than to lend support to them and give them my attention when they won't give any attention to me, especially on things that they are so ignorant about, and especially when those people think they're experts. They don't deserve my attention. And like I said, I'd rather go without some bit of knowledge that I might not have picked up otherwise, because let's face it, a lot of other people hear these things and they may, I'll hear it from somebody else. So I'm not going to miss anything that I will regret missing. And I'm doing some of my own research as far as cosmology goes, but who's going to see it? Even on that panel, I was grateful to be there a few days ago, that I was given a platform other than my tiny channel to show some of my research. But what I was not given a platform to do is to stand in favor of my belief and defend the Bible. And I don't intend to do it because, as I said, I'm not going on those panels where they allow people to violate their own principles of unity and love and acceptance. That's just how it's going to be. And it's not like I'm running away and afraid. Anybody who knows me should know better. And I've got tons of material. I've done videos, especially the one I keep referring to on Babylon, that shows that Rome had nothing to do with writing the Bible. And people want to believe otherwise. They don't know. And they pick up quote unquote facts from sites that are already biased against the Bible. What facts do they think they're going to see there? But they don't care. It's not about unity. It's not about truth. It's not about acceptance. It's about controlling the narrative once again, and flat earthers are falling for it. And I just cringe. So, although I was not named personally, I was named so in the chat by people who were defending that guy and making excuses for his rude, judgmental, hypocritical behavior. They know me better than that. He doesn't know me. I don't expect him to know me personally, but he did insult every Christian, of which I am one, who disagrees with him and is therefore, in his eyes, a fool, and nobody held him to account. So I'm just not putting up with that. I'm not sweeping it under the rug. So yeah, I'm owning my name. That's the thing, is it disarms people from using the bad Christian argument. Like I said, it's not for them to say what a bad Christian is when they're not one. And even if Christians try to tell me this, I'm going to say, okay, fine, I'm bad. What are you going to do about it? I don't care what you think of me. I care what God thinks of me. And your interpretation of the Bible is not God's any more than I claim mine is. I just claim they're my opinions of what it means. And like I said, I'm fairly certain that the person who said he knew the Bible better than anybody has not done what I've done, which is to translate the New Testament and go over every single Greek word. And that my dictionary database has over 17,000 entries. I can guarantee you he has not had the time to do that, let alone the interest. And yet he claims to know the Bible better than any Christian. So there you go. Yeah, they're blind, and it's like this, the parable Jesus told of the seeds and the sower. Just a brief retelling of that is, he said a farmer went out to scatter seeds, and some of the seeds fell on the footpath, the rocky footpath. Some fell in very shallow soil. Some fell among thorns and weeds, and some fell on good soil. And then he told what happened to each set of seeds. On the path, the birds just came right by and took the seeds away and ate them. On the rocks, the shallow soil, the seeds sprouted quickly, but when the sun came up and the heat of the day came, they withered quickly and died. The seed that fell among the weeds is is seed that grew and prospered for a while, but eventually were choked out by the other plants. And then, of course, the seeds on the good soil grew and sprouted and produced 100 times more fruit or whatever it was, where vegetables were planted. And then, and the story, the interpretation he gave to his disciples, who were actually very clueless about the meaning of things until Jesus told them, which is, again, another indication that the Bible was not written by them or by the Romans or by the Jews. Jesus explained the seed is the gospel, and the soil is different kinds of people. The footpath people are the ones who just don't even give it a chance. The people who are like the shallow soil fall, just give it up as soon as any kind of persecution happens, the heat of the day. The people in the weeds are like people who kind of have a surface faith, who go along with it for a while, but the cares of life gradually and slowly choke it out, and they are unproductive. It doesn't say they're unsaved, it says they're unproductive. And then the good soil is people who accept it and run with it and take it seriously and have a deep root. And the point of that parable is not the seeds, it's the soil, it's the ground. And that's what each individual chooses, what kind of ground they are. And these people that I've been talking about and ranting about are like the footpath. They don't even give it a chance And the bird in that story that comes and eats the seed is the devil. Because these people cared nothing for the seed that was offered to them, the devil will snatch it away. And there's zero point of trying to talk to those people. Because if God and the Holy Spirit can't get through, what chance do we have? And Jesus said, don't throw pearls to swine. Don't give to depraved people what is sacred. And this is Jesus. This is Jesus saying this thing. That he calls certain people swine, throwing pearls to them because they don't appreciate pearls. And there are people whose hearts are so hardened against the gospel that they're better left alone. And we have another example in the letters of Paul where he says in 1 Corinthians 5, there's somebody among you whose sin is so bad that the surrounding unbelievers don't approve of it, and you people in this church are so stupid you're approving of it because you're trying to be so progressive. That's my paraphrase. And he says, throw the guy out, hand him over to Satan so that he'll be taught a lesson and and brought back to fellowship. And then in 2 Corinthians, we see that Paul says, okay, the guy repented, take him back. So there are times when we need what is called tough love, which is what Paul was describing there. And he says sometimes you have to abandon people to Satan because they got to hit bottom before they'll look up. So we have as Christians we must learn when we're talking to the footpath, when we're talking to the swine, when we're talking to the brick wall. And that's what a lot of popular YouTubers in Flat Earth have become. You can't talk to them. They don't want to hear it. And all they want to do, if they do invite Christians to debate them, is stack the deck and use rapid fire, trying to see who can make the biggest fool of the other. If I debated anybody, it would be in writing with formal rules of word limit lengths and time limits to submit your argument. There would be one person doing the affirmative, one doing the negative. There would be a certain number of exchanges and then concluding remarks. That's the only way I will debate anyone anymore, because I've spent decades in the trenches in writing and in YouTube, and I've been ambushed by people who've been wanting to debate me, and they called me a liar for saying they wanted to debate me. And then what do? They find me on a panel somewhere and surround me and then conduct a quote unquote debate. That's happened before too. So I'm done. I'm not wasting any more time on people like that. So yeah, there's a very stringent condition I'm setting. If anybody does want to debate me, there's only written formal debate, and it would have to be the documents presented in a neutral location if such a thing can be found, because nobody's allowed to edit after the fact. And I don't think anybody's going to take me up on that. I'll be shocked if they do, and I'm absolutely prepared if they do. And I will argue the negative, because they're going to be making affirmative statements against the Bible and say they believe certain things are true, and I'm going to counter those claims, because Christians have for too long been kept on defense. I will not play defense anymore. I will be the prosecuting attorney in any debate. Those are the conditions, and I will not compromise or sweep under the rug any more insults or allowed insults on panels. I will not be there. I will not support the site. I'm having to make a stand, because that's the only way that you have to be harsh sometimes. And if they want to be hypocrites and call us the harsh and judgmental people after we're just reacting to that kind of treatment, so be it. I'm not wasting my time on those people. So I don't know what good that's going to do, because the people who really need to hear this aren't going to listen. And yeah, water off a duck's back. This duck ain't hanging around. Their insults only prove me right on a lot of things. They only prove Christians right. They only prove, just like insults against Flat Earth, all the trolling and everything have proven Flat Earth right in one degree. And the same thing happens to Christians by Flat Earthers. You would think they would know better, just as I've lamented before on the topic of the gender divide in Christianity, where people who should have learned a lesson from the American South during the Civil War, when arguments were being made from the Bible to condone slavery, and that this was God's natural order. And those same people will turn around and use those same arguments after they agree slavery is wrong and use them against women. It's just incredible. And I'm not associating with people who are hypocrites like that. So, I don't know. A debate between peanut butter chocolate cookies or pizza. Boy, that'd be a tough one. I think I don't know. And then I would say, well, it depends on what I'm in the mood for. Oh, situational ethics. That's how those things go. Anyway, yeah, it's tiring. And I did all summer try to have a place where the Christians could be safe from such onslaughts, but few Christians seemed interested. So it seems that most Christians in flat earth and conspiracy are happier being assaulted and taking it with a smile. And on that regard, I've done a couple of videos, one called What Would Jesus Do? And another called What Would Jesus Not Do? So that's my opinion on that sort of thing. But I'm nobody's doormat or punching bag. And I'm not going to go anywhere where that happens, whether in the chat or on the panel or both, as it was yesterday. So, yeah, I agree that it's a mindset of thinking they're awake. The old illustration of jumping from the frying pan to the fire comes to mind, where people are so paranoid about being fooled, they insist that they have finally figured everything out, and they don't want, you cannot tell them that they've been fooled again. And that's what's happening. And nothing I can do about it. So anyway, I did, one thing nobody can say is that I didn't try to get a message out, to give people chances, to provide a haven. Nothing's working. I don't know what to do. Except that every now and then when I feel like I have something to say, I'll do a hangout, and because it's a reliable recording. So, yeah, bad Christian. What can I say? It reminds me of a game I used to play on the Mac back in the days when I could afford a Mac. And there was a game called Grids, Gridz. And the most powerful piece of, it was a grid layout, obviously, and had cute little robots. They were funny. But the most powerful piece was called the boss. It was the only female robot, and you can tell guys made this game, but it was the only female robot, and she was the boss, and she had a whip. She would go around trying to whip the enemy pieces, going, get back to work, and she would turn them into your pieces. It was funny. Anyway, a little bit sexist, but funny. And that was my game. I was good at that game. But anyway, I think I'm done. If you feel like spreading this rant video to people who need to see it, don't get up, and don't expect them to actually go watch it or for very long. Do expect it to get massive thumbs down if they do watch it at all. But I didn't name any names. I'm not going to name any names. I don't do hit pieces. I'm just venting, and I can do that. And I'm not trying to ruin anybody's reputation because I didn't name anybody. If somebody feels guilty about this because I had more than one person in mind and more than one day in mind, more than one hangout, that's their problem. If they're feeling convicted, that's always a good sign, but still. Yeah, this isn't my first rodeo, so to speak, and I've been at this in message boards and forums long before YouTube, and I've had enough of it. I don't want to talk to those people. I want to talk to people who actually want to sit down like adults and discuss things rationally and who aren't going to be hypocrites about it. So, yeah, so anyway, I also would encourage you to visit, let me get my social networking site. I know I posted it in my last video, I'm pretty sure, but I've been posting there a lot of Bible prophecy stuff that I find quite fascinating, because for more reasons than I can number right now, there's a convergence in history happening, and I think it's happening this month, which just started today. There's a lot going on, and would encourage you, like I said, there's a couple of recent prophecy videos that I put on my site that I think are absolutely fascinating. I went over a little bit of one of them the other day about Revelation, about another dimension to it that I hadn't really addressed or considered in my Revelation commentary. I also have a commentary on the New Testament, bible.feather.net. Let me just, sometimes with arthritis, it's easier to just go get a link than try to type it out again. So I'll just give you a bunch of my links here. I think I had them in that one other thing, but let me give you that one. And then the books one is right here. There's a prophecy book there you might want to look at. And of course, I have a bunch of videos and playlists on my channel. So I got things to do. I got chores this morning, dentist appointment this afternoon. And other than that, going to be an interesting month, I think. And I've told people I'd be shocked if nothing major prophetically happens by the end of the year. So fasten your seatbelts and just hang on. There is one of the 7 letters in Revelation, just one of the churches, Jesus just says, just hang on. I think we're there. Just hang on. Anyway, thanks for coming. See y'all later. Pass the link around if you can. Not because I'm looking for popularity, but because I'm looking for people who need a slap in the face to get it. They can take it that way if they want. Bad Christian, sue me. Anyway, thanks for coming. See y'all later.